Some of the best nights of my life have been with completely random strangers.
Would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm definitely an introvert. I really love Thailand. My wife is from there. I have known to be a bit reckless on occasions because I'll often go out.
Have you learned anything about yourself?
I absolutely love.
What's your name?
Name's Kai.
And how old are you, Kai?
I'm 39.
Where is home for you?
Sorry?
Where is home for you?
So I'm based in North London, North East London. Yeah.
When did you first start traveling on your own?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. Must have been a few years back now. I actually can't remember, to be honest. No, I do. I think it was 2019. I went to the Philippines by myself in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was one of my kind of earliest trips that I remember. But I think I've done a couple of smaller trips into Europe before then, but I think as far as like kind of major trips go, Philippines was probably the first.
What inspired you to make the trip on your own?
Well, we don't want to see like Chocolate Hills. Don't know if you've heard of it, but it's basically like a landscape in a kind of very remote part of the country off Sibiu Island, and just a bit of a kind of freak of nature, really. It's just thousands of hills just kind of all formed naturally over a long period of time, and I just really wanted to check it out and see it, to be honest. I didn't really know anyone who was interested in going at the time, and I wasn't particularly prepared to wait for anyone else, so I just felt, why not?
How did other people react to the idea of you traveling on your own?
I think generally, like my friends, they tend to be like quite supportive of the fact that I solo travel, and I get the feeling that a lot of people would like to be able to do it as well, like solo travel by themselves on occasions, but for one reason or another, can't seem to be able to. Whether that's just, I don't know, like safety reasons, internal reasons. Yeah, my friends are pretty chilled about it, as I am, to be honest.
And how do you keep yourself safe when you travel?
I don't know about safe. I have known to be a bit reckless on occasions because I'll often go out, and during the night times I'll drink a fair bit, and then obviously you'll meet people and you end up in random places. So one night I was drinking quite heavily. A gentleman called Jack, who I think was from Portsmouth, if I remember correctly, or Stockport, and we would literally been drinking throughout the night. Ended up in the slums of Manila, started betting on illegal cockfighting, and then got robbed by some lady.
Well,
I wouldn't say I'm the most responsible, but in terms of keeping myself safe, I don't know. I'd like to think I'm quite intuitive, so I can I think I get a vibe, for people, and if something doesn't feel particular. But touch wood, haven't really kind of come across anything particularly, unsafe, I would say, in my opinion. I haven't got myself into any situations, that has required me to, involve the authorities or anything like that. So I think I've probably been quite fortunate, if anything, I think, all things considered. Yeah.
would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm definitely an introvert, yeah. Even though I do like being in large crowds on occasions, because I'm a drum and bass fan, so I do go to events on occasions, but I'll often go to those occasions by myself as well, because I am very introverted, and yeah, I do tend to feel quite uncomfortable, even in groups as small as like 2 or 3 people. Well, no, I think anything larger than 3 people, I don't tend to feel very comfortable in social situations, yeah.
What are some of the other interesting places you've seen?
Interesting places. I've been to Thailand 5 times. I really love Thailand. My wife is from there, so quite familiar with that country. Been to Prague. I went to Prague in February last year. Really, really beautiful city. Really, really safe as well. Like probably one of the safest places I've ever been to. Been to Amsterdam for a couple of events as well out there. I think the most interesting place were probably Thailand and the Philippines, but I have plans to visit India next year. That's kind of quite high up on my list, and I think that'll probably be a solo trip as well.
Doesn't your wife like to travel with you?
Yeah, we do go on family trips together. If there are particular destinations that she's not particularly keen on going, like she's not really that fussed about going to India, and I really want to check it out. So there are occasions where she's cool with me just going by myself. Yeah, I have quite a good, healthy relationship, so it's not really an issue.
Do you make friends when you travel?
Yeah, I mean, some of the best nights of my life have been with completely like random strangers. I'll never forget Steve from India in one of my trips in Thailand a few years back. I don't know if his real name was actually Steve, but yeah, like we just ended up going to a club. Oh, hello. ended up going to a club, and yeah, it was a great night. Like, I don't know about friends as such because they're not necessarily people like I keep in touch with, but I definitely, come across people and we'll go out and, have fun and stuff. But as far as like keeping in touch with them, I, it's not really something that I pursue. I just like having the kind of memories, the kind of good times we had. But kind of long lasting friendships, it's not something that I particularly pursue when I'm traveling.
Have you had kindness from strangers?
Kindness from strangers. I mean, no more than someone giving me directions or buying me a drink. Nothing really sticks out in my memory as far as acts of kindness goes. Yeah.
Do your social
That's an
media
interesting question.
yeah. Do your social media habits change when you're traveling?
I don't really. No, they don't. I'm a consumer of social media, so I don't really kind of create content or anything like that. But in recent times, I have actually started thinking about maybe creating my own content because I do produce and I DJ drum and bass music. So I have plans to visit, different countries this year. And I'm going to different events and whatnot. Actually, yeah, one of the things I do like to do is when I do go to these events abroad, I just like to record, clips of, the events and the club itself. And I like to promote the DJs that are showcasing their talent. So that's something I'll continue to do. But it'd be really cool to just, I think, stretch out to kind of Far East Asia this year and grab some content. I'm hoping to DJ in Vietnam as well, fingers crossed this year. So that'd be really cool. So yeah, I think in short, it probably does in a sense, but no more than recording the events that I'm going to. Really, I don't, I don't do like a travel vlog or anything like that. Yeah.
Have you learned anything about yourself because of travel?
I absolutely love like being by myself. I think people often can be quite scared of being or don't like that kind of feeling of loneliness. But I think for me, I like to use those opportunities to really kind of self-reflect and focus on the things that I'd like to achieve in life. Maybe realign myself with kind of certain priorities. But I just love the sense of freedom that comes with it as well. I think if anything I've learned is that I'm totally comfortable being by myself in my own skin, which to me says I'm probably doing something right in life, I guess.
Has the way you travel changed over time?
I don't think so. No, I'm quite kind of budget conscientious when I travel. So I do, if I travel internally, like domestically, like in countries that I do like to kind of take local transport, like buses and trains and whatnot. So just for the experience. But in terms of actually getting there, it's predominantly flights really. So I just go with the flow really. It depends on what part of the country I want to visit, if there are any particular monuments or place that I want to visit. Obviously, there's only certain ways of getting there, right? If you're going to somewhere particularly remote, probably need to take a plane and then a ferry and then hop on a train. So it just really depends on where I'm visiting. I'm open to all modes of transport.
What's next on your travel horizon?
Travel horizon, could definitely do in Thailand and Vietnam this year. I'd really love to. Thailand, not so much, but I'm going with a couple of friends this time actually. So they're quite keen to see the country. As a person who's been there 5 times, I'll show them the ropes and, obviously we'll go together. But I think Vietnam is really the country that I'd love to see because I have a slight interest in the Vietnam War as well. So that I'd like to visit kind of parts of the country where it may have been impacted by the war, back in the 70s. So yeah, Asia is a part of the world that I really, really love going back to time and time again. So yeah, for Thailand and Vietnam this year, and then I think India's part of the list for next year. I think yeah, that's the plan, anyways.
Do you have any advice to give any person thinking of solo travel?
And my advice would be, I'm not sure if this would be the best advice, but it would be to travel without fear and don't kind of place any expectations on what it might be like, especially if it's your first time. And I think just really try to enjoy it because it can be really daunting for someone, particularly if it's their first time solo traveling. So, if anything, I'd probably suggest you maybe doing a short haul trip. Maybe don't go too far for your first time and just kind of see if you actually enjoy it. I can't imagine it being particularly fun if you're, you know, thousands of miles away from home and you realize that maybe solo traveling is not for you. And so don't be afraid to talk to people. I think people often, sometimes they can go to places and they'll feel lonely, but They don't necessarily have to be because there'll often be backpackers and other travelers like going in and out of the country at any point in time, right? So there's always going to be an opportunity to meet people. So, I think if you're willing to come out of your shell and solo travel, I'd encourage people to go a bit further and, can go out of their way and socialize and speak to people, even if they are introverted. It doesn't have to be to a large group of people, but I think, and the locals are really, really nice, and you can learn a lot about the culture and the way of life just through speaking to the locals as well. It's great education, and I think adds a lot of value to traveling anywhere. Often I've heard of people who travel abroad and they'll stick to home comforts, their McDonald's and whatnot. But I'd say, try to be a little bit adventurous and try some of the local cuisines as well, and really kind of ingrain yourself in the way of life. I think it makes the journey that much more enriching.
How do you deal with the language barrier?
I've been quite fortunate because all the countries I visit to, the people generally tend to have a good grasp of English language. Obviously, English is quite universal, right? So I've never really struggled communicating with people. But I do try to learn kind of the odd phrase here and there. So I think just the little pocket language book goes a long way, and it really kind of endears the local people. If you kind of take an interest in their language and their culture, you'll find that they'll be kind of much more open to you and perhaps a little bit friendlier to you as well. So, but luckily, like obviously, as I've said, English is a universal language, so I don't really struggle communicating. But there's always hands and sign language, I guess, if you get really stuck. But yeah, I think never really had issues with language, to be fair.
Any final thoughts you would like to share or say that I might not have?
Final thoughts, I think if you're thinking about doing it, then just do it. To be honest, it's you really do learn a lot about yourself, and you may find yourself that you actually find that you really really enjoy it. I know I do. It's something that I love doing it. I think it's just that sense of freedom of having the world at your feet and not knowing what may come. It's a nice change of pace from kind of the mundane lives that we lead, in our home countries and cities. So I think, yeah, having that element of surprise is just really, really exciting. And I encourage anyone who's thinking about it to take the plunge and, yeah, see, even if it's not a great experience, you might learn something out of it, right? Which you could probably take forward. So I'd encourage it, but be safe if you're thinking about doing it, and definitely do a bit of research into the countries that you're thinking about visiting. Obviously, there are certain parts of countries that are safer than others, right? So because there's often conflict going on in other parts of the world that you don't really want to get caught up in. So do your research and yeah, prepare and have fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks, Kai.
No problem.